This vignette comes to us from the webinar called Learning Open Educational Resources. In it, Drs. Cable Green and David Wiley discuss what's new and noteworthy in the world of open educational resources and Creative Commons content. What is new and noteworthy in the world of OER and Creative Commons? Who wants to lead that one? David? A long pause.
What is new and noteworthy in the world?
Exciting, yes.
Well, Cable could say in the world of Creative Commons, in the world of Creative Commons licensed content, I think something that's new and noteworthy is, all the things that are new and noteworthy about Creative Commons licensed content are the things that people are doing with Creative Commons licensed content, because the content, to some degree, is inert. It's text,
Yep,
an image, something else. One of the interesting things that I heard recently, there's a company called Newton, KNEWTON, that is a company that builds a platform for doing adaptive and personalized learning. I interviewed Jose, the CEO of Newton, in a setting not too different from this one, just a few weeks ago, and he told us that their plan with OER was to put OER in, fill up their platform with OER. They've got a lot of publisher content in their adaptive personalized learning platform now. But Jose talked in that video interview about putting OER content into their platform and about only charging people who use their platform a percentage of the fee that the publisher is charging for the content that's in the platform. So that means that for the OER that does end up in their platform, people are going to be able to have a personalized, adaptive kind of learning experience based on OER in this really cool emerging kind of artificial intelligence platform, and it's not going to cost them anything. And that's one of the most exciting things I've heard lately. One other thing that I'll throw in just as a bit of a teaser, because I can't quite give all the details on it yet. But a couple of years ago, we started a high school here in Utah that, in its charter documents, committed itself to using nothing but OER. That's called the Open High School of Utah, and it's been running very successfully for a number of years now. It's in the top 10% of all high schools in the state in terms of academic performance. But I do know right now that there is a community college on the East Coast that will announce this coming summer that they've moved an entire associate's degree program off of expensive proprietary textbooks, and they're moving it into OER. So you'll be able to complete that entire degree without ever having to pay $1 for textbooks, because they're shifting what they're using to support those classes off of traditional publisher textbooks and into open educational resources. And I think both of those things are super exciting.
Cable, I'm going to let you have the final word on what's new and noteworthy, and then we'll wrap up our first section.
Yeah, thanks. I'm just dropping a link in Twitter right now about one of the things that's new and noteworthy. So one thing is that Creative Commons is 10 years old this week, so we're happy about that. And we continue to go strong and build to make this whole conversation easier and stretch it to more folks. The link that I just dropped in the chat window is a link to the Paris OER Declaration. So one of the real exciting things that David and I are lucky enough to work on is what's called open policy. And open policy quite simply means when public funds are used to build something, that the public should have access to what it paid for. Or as David likes to put it, if you buy one, you should get one. So think about going into a restaurant and handing over your credit card and ordering a nice meal, and they say, thanks for your money and have a nice evening, right? And you don't get your food, and you'd be rather upset. Well, in fact, that's what happens with our public tax dollars and much of our educational content and research that we do in our country, and this is true in many other countries. So what we're doing is we're actually working with governments, and we're working with foundations to say, when you give money, if you give a grant, it's fine to give the money, but require a Creative Commons attribution license on the content and a CC0 on the data. So CC0 puts the data into the public domain. And why is that important? Well, gosh, David and I are both federal taxpayers, and when the National Science Foundation gives a grant to the University of Michigan to study cancer, David would very much like, because he helped pay for that grant, he'd like the chemistry professors at Brigham Young University to have full access to that data and to have full access to all the research that was funded with federal taxpayer dollars. Similarly, if I live in Washington State, I pay state tax dollars that go to essentially purchase textbooks for K-12. And today we spend $130 million a year, and our textbooks are 10 years out of date. That's not a good deal for the taxpayer dollar, and so we're looking at open educational resources for K-12. So that's one exciting thing is governments all around the world are starting to ask this question: should the public have access to what they pay for? And the reason this is so important for OER is that there are globally we spend roughly $3 trillion a year on education, which is a lot of money. And even if a fraction of that was mandated as a funder mandate to be open educational resources, then the sheer amount of information and knowledge and textbooks and everything else that we would have access to freely and under an open license would be staggering. And then all these problems about search and discovery become, even more important. But that's a good problem to have, and that's something we're trying to create. Last thought is I understand we've got a few people from K-12 on. Big opportunity, again, that David and I talk a lot about with others is the new Common Core standards in K-12 in the United States. And there's 45 states and 3 U.S. territories. They now have the same standards in math and in the English language arts. And science is coming up next. And so the question is, if we've got common standards, is this an opportunity to, in fact, pool our resources or get some foundations and companies to actually put up some money so that we can build state-of-the-art digital resources that are under an open license and freely available to the school districts of the United States and are aligned to the Common Core standards? Now, we can do that, and we can do it for probably less than $100 million for the entire country, or the districts can do what they've always done, and the estimates are that they will spend $8.3 billion buying new textbooks and new curricular resources using existing business models. So the difference between those two amounts of money, the return on investment, is over 11,000%. So David and I aren't just talking about hippy-dippy utopian ideas about wouldn't it be sweet if we all shared. We're talking about real money, and we're talking about access issues, and we're talking about the difference between an educated populace and one that's